I always like to start off with, the audience is a mix of a lot of different people, and they may not know you. And so you can tell the audience a little bit about your career journey to being HealthTech Capital's founder and managing director.
Yeah, thank you, Bill, and thank you for inviting me on this wonderful, webinar today. So, my background is unusual. I was born in Belgium. That's that little French twist that you may hear. And I got a master in engineering there and an MBA from Harvard there. And I started in a company in the electronic industry in Silicon Valley, and then I launched pulse oximetry for a company called Nelcor. And the reason why it's important because after in 1986, after my dual experience after they went public, I created a space called HealthTech, which is way ahead of its time. And that was by combining the fact that there's this incredible explosion of technology on the computer and telecom side, and we could change healthcare delivery, which is what health tech is in my mind, as opposed to traditional medtech and biotech, which is all about a new product risk going after an existing market. If you think about it, health tech is the opposite. Health tech is low technology risk, but creating a new market or disturbing a market there. So for 20 years, I was a serial entrepreneur, got lucky and smart, depending who you're talking to get 8 IPOs and $20 billion in market cap creation there. Then I became an EIR for a couple of VC firms like Mayfield and IVP, all fantastic term. And then I became a mentor capitalist. And by what I mean by that is entrepreneur needs more than money. They need the right advices and mentoring, bringing them back up when they're depressed, bringing them back down a little bit manic there. So in 2010, I basically started a group called HealthTech Capital. And because my frustration is that I couldn't get funding from traditional medtech VC. Bill, you were the exception, but the other guys were different. And so I found a group of angel investors, VCs, and corporate VCs, and we thanked Merck to be one of our sponsors for a long, long time, a wonderful partner. And we basically do medtech investment and health tech investment. We have invested in around 60 companies, and we typically look at them at maybe 40% medtech and 60% health tech. And so the group has a lot of women, and so we are totally agnostic on women. So somebody asked me, how many of these CEOs are women? I said, well, I've never looked at that way. I invested because we like them and we like what they're doing. And to our own surprise, 26% of the women, of the CEOs were women. And the other thing that was a surprise is 25% of our portfolio are linked to women's health. And we can talk about that maybe a little bit later.
Well, great career journey. We're happy to have you as part of the industry. So let's talk a little bit about women's health now. What are some of the key areas within women's health where you see significant potential for investment and innovation, and what sort of factors contribute to the attractiveness of some of these opportunities in the healthcare market for you?
Yeah, I think historically the venture industry look at femtech as too narrow, little features here and there and all of that, and really being focused on fertility. Fertility may be only 30% of the market opportunity, and it's honestly it's getting very crowded there. But there's a lot of other things, there's menopause, menstrual health, cervical cancer. And then what people don't understand is that we have different reaction to the same diseases. And there's an ingrained mentality in the medical profession that we should be gender neutral, and we're not. The way we have heart attacks have very different symptoms than men. The same thing we talk about the prior speaker there about Alzheimer's and some of the immune disorders. We have very, higher rates and different symptoms. So I think it's really important that we really focus on women's health as a woman being a different person, different diseases, and therefore we should treat them differently. So therefore diagnostic, therapeutics, clinical decision supports, all of that are huge opportunities. And as you probably know, Bill, only 2% of non-cancer medical research is focused on women's health. We don't know. I've worked, as you probably remember, for 20 years in changing anesthesia, patient monitoring, and I've been really lucky to have been involved with some of the biggest patient monitoring there. They just discovered, published paper like 30 days ago, after all these years, that women need different anesthesia than men, that they need higher doses, men are much lighter, and so all of that. And so we very often have a cookbook medicine on how we treat women, and we need to change that.
Okay, good. Thank you for the answer. Another interesting question, can you discuss the importance of gender-sensitive healthcare solutions and how investing in women's health can lead to better healthcare outcomes, not only for women, but for entire communities and economies that participate in healthcare?
Well, it's, as you know, there's a study showing that women gets diagnosed 4.5 years later than a man for the same diseases. So if we diagnose them earlier, first of all, it's better for the patient because they can get maybe relief, for some treatment or slowing down the progression of a disease, but also for the system, because by the time they finally get diagnosed, they're much in a much more serious condition, which means it costs more money to the system. So that's for all the payers and the providers. There's like 1 in 5 women felt that a healthcare provider had ignored or dismissed their symptoms. Somehow we all historical women in this country, especially lately after going into politics. And so I think if we basically listen to people before they have a heart attack, I mean, we know that the mortality rate for women from heart attack is twice the one of men because they have slightly different symptoms. People don't spend necessarily attention. And so I think if we could capture people earlier, do a lot of education about looking for different symptoms, identify them, screen them, treat them earlier with drugs and treatment that are lower cost, you basically will have better outcome for the system, the payers, the employers, and then of course the patient.
Right. So the next question is more about sort of what your day job, if you will, and as a leading investor in women's health, I was wondering if you could share some examples of successful investments or partnerships that made significant impact in improving women's health outcomes, and what lessons can be learned from some of those experiences as you think about future investment strategies.
Yeah, I think I like to look at different buckets because they have different business models. So one bucket is how can we use digital platform to enable people to manage themselves better? Yeah, I will say that. And in that space, we had invested in a company called Wildflower Health a long time ago. And Wildflower Health is doing value-based care for OBGYN during pregnancy, and then they show that they could decrease the amount of neonatal complications, because you basically encourage people to take care of themselves better. We also invest in My Health Team. Their first disease category there is like patients like me on version 3.0. And it was My Autism. Within 30 days, they got 40,000 women on the platform to basically manage the autistic children there. Now they have like 2.5 million people there. So this is patient enabling each other. It's the peer support group, but also allowing pharma to educate them in a way that's safe and controlled. We have Nimble, which is a company that we invested in that helped women decrease the chance of falling and breaking their hips. And they decreased by, I think, around 50% the probability that, you may break yourself. As you all know, when you break your hips, that's catastrophic, and the mortality rate within 6 months is very high. We have another company called FoodSmart that invests into helping people in their nutrition. So they work with Medicaid and the employers, and we are what we eat, including women. And we have LadyX, which is a way for moms who are the chief medical officer of the home to basically take care of their ear infections to just know if they should cup themselves to the ear or not. That's the digital platform. And a lot of these have business model issue, which is who pays. You can go directly to consumers, or you could basically try to get the payers for this. And then there's issue with codes and all of that. A lot of them have gone to the employers or pharma supported. So diversity on the business models is one of the challenges of this platform. Another type of area is what's called behavioral health. There's a lot of depression issue there. And we invest in a company called Journey Life, which is based in New York, which is doing EAP for mental health. Ironically, the people are stepping up in mental health are the employers, and they are incorporating this into their benefit platforms there. We also invest in wearables. I think wearables is going to offer a lot of opportunities. And one was Bloom Life, which is doing pregnancy monitoring, during high-risk pregnancy. We have a company called Joyless, who's doing fantastic for menopause. I mean, they're absolutely exploding. And we have in long-term care, a lot of people in long-term care, 80% of them are women, is a company called Care Protect. So it's not a needle in a haystack, it's a haystack of needles. There's a lot of opportunities for women there. And then we have the traditional med tech, we should not forget them. There's a lot of products needs to be modified. So for example, Clara Medical is a specific type of medical devices for hysterectomy surgery. Bone Health is using technology from NASA to decrease people to break their hips, and this is based on osteopenia, so you slow down the loss of the bone mass. So what I'm encouraging the audience here is that don't be afraid. It's not about fertility and getting pregnant. It's a huge market that needs a lot of basically efforts in listening to the voice of the customer, and that is the woman's voice who have different need, and help the physicians understand that.
Well, very broad and really interesting area of investing that you're doing, and which leads to my final question, which is somewhat related. If you think about trends, what are some of the emerging trends or technologies in women's health that you believe will help shape the future of where we're going in around delivery and patient outcomes?
Well, the great news is that I've been old enough that, femtech, which is what it used to be called, was like taboo for a long time on the venture side for like 20 or 30 years. And then we had a lot of angel investment, and some celebrity basically start focusing to say, listen, we need to do something here. And you had like 25% of angel investment there related to femtech and women's health, because there was a lot of women angel investors who wanted to propagate that. Now I think we're finally passing the chasm, at least that's my hope, where the venture industry is starting to realize there is money to be made here. We've had exit, like Progeny was a fertility benefit company, went public at $3 billion. That talks money, and money follows money. We also have large companies are beginning to focus on women's health. So Alphabet, Google Venture, and Medtronic, are starting to have some initiative in this area there. We have also had the White House, I think it's Jill Biden, had this whole initiative on women's health research, which is we should have dedicated criteria and inclusion criteria in clinical trials to have women in those trials, as opposed to assume we're the same than the men, and 94%, maybe men's in the trials. And then I think what's really very, very exciting is that we have the large health organization. We're finally starting to get some initiative. So you see Mass Generals, Atrium Health, Northwell, Organon, all of that to say there's money here, we need to help, and there's good outcomes. So I think my ultimate hope, if we can get there, is that we start getting different ICD-10 code and CPT codes that realize that certain of the disease needs to be treated differently with different diagnostics and maybe different treatment there. And so that we have a system that allows this to basically realize that we're just not gender agnostics, that men and women have different symptoms and different treatment as a result of that. So therefore the diagnostic, the therapeutics, all of that needs to be personalized.
Well, thank you so much, Anne. I wish we had more time. It's just wonderful speaking with you, and I really enjoyed the conversation.